Coming up in a few minutes. But first, when it comes to the Democratic nominee for president, the choice is either an African-American or a woman. Well, reports now are suggesting that vice presidential nominee for the Republicans could up the ante a bit. Come on, can anybody give me a Chinese person? We've got an African-American woman now, Condoleezza Rice, that ABC News is reporting that is actively campaigning in the last recent weeks. I don't personally buy this story, but let's give it a whirl. She's been showing up at events frequented by influential conservatives, making it well known that she wants the job. On the other hand, there are some in Washington who want to make sure that one person doesn't get the job, and that's rich white man Mitt Romney. There's 26 conservative leaders now who have formed the Government is Not God Political Action Committee. I don't even know what that means. They say that Romney's record as governor of Massachusetts make him, quote, utterly unacceptable as a vice presidential choice. I'm going to give you that the health care thing up in Massachusetts, it's crazy town central now. But other than that, wouldn't you want a VP to be a man of high moral standard who has been dedicated to public service and is wildly successful, in economics? Just saying. We should let the qualifications get in the way of politics. Why not? It's America. Jim Garrity is a writer for the Campaign Spot blog on the National Review online. Jim, let's go with Condoleezza Rice. You buy this story?
No, Glenn. In fact, I'm about as skeptical as you are.
Yeah.
Just for a whole bunch of different reasons, one of which being that Condi Rice has a fairly full plate as Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Kind of tough to buy her angling and name-dropping the idea of putting herself as the running mate possibility.
See, that's weird, because just last week I just read a story that said that something along the lines of her personal life couldn't stand up to scrutiny, or I don't even know what that means, quite honestly. I don't want to know about your personal life. I want to know about your policies. Do we even know anything about what her policies would be like? Where does she stand on issues?
No, that's a great point, Glenn, in the sense that this is a woman who has been the right-hand woman of George W. Bush for the past 7.5 years. She's always been kind of in this advisory capacity or a cabinet capacity, and she's, I think, performed pretty ably in those roles. But she hasn't necessarily stood on her own 2 feet. It'd be interesting to have a running mate who had never run for any office in her entire life. It'd just be, generally, if you're going to do that and assume either the presidency or be a heartbeat away from the presidency, as the vice president is, you have to be Dwight Eisenhower. You have to be someone who is so revered by Americans that everyone assumes you could handle the job immediately. I think Americans think highly of Condi Rice, and she is, I think, right now, fifth in line to the presidency. But, she's expressed no interest in the job so far.
I have to tell you, I am so sick and tired of hearing, it's a woman, an African-American, or now Republicans. I don't think this is actually happening, but it's almost like Republicans are like, oh, yeah, well, we can get a black woman. Oh, yeah, well, we can get a handicapped Indian. Can we just talk about qualifications?
Yeah, and I was going to say, serving as a national security advisor and Secretary of State, those are fine qualifications, and I don't think anyone would say that Condi Rice is it beats doing not even one term in the Senate to take one particular candidate over on the Democratic side. But really, this is not necessarily someone who expressed no interest in the job so far. It's rather odd that she would have this alleged behind-the-scenes campaign.
I don't buy it at all. The anti-Romney campaign, what is God is Not Government? What is that?
These are a bunch of Huckabee supporters, and the only thing I can discern about this is that since Huckabee left the race, you really haven't heard any buzz about him as a running mate. I think most people would agree that despite his strengths, he wouldn't necessarily add something that McCain absolutely positively needs as he goes into the general election. So perhaps these are some folks who are saying, well, if we're not going to get the consolation prize of the vice presidency, we don't want our rival getting the consolation prize of the vice presidency.
But Huckabee doesn't have anything except for the Southern Baptist tie. He doesn't have anything that, Romney can bring economic experience. If you really, that's the one thing that McCain doesn't have. That and, I don't know, get up and go kind of speech that, nails you to your seat.
Yeah. I would observe that, this way, the fact that we're going through economic tough times makes Romney as a running mate much more likable, much more likely. But having said that, this is really putting the cart before the horse. McCain has said that he's only beginning the most general outlines of this. And the one thing that I would note is that this organization, Government is Not God, ran an ad in one of McCain's hometown papers. Glenn, do you think John McCain is swayed by an ad in his hometown paper? Does that sound like the sort of thing that would sway him one way or the other?
No. Jim, thank you very much. Okay, America, tell me where I'm wrong here. I don't think it matters who's on the ticket with John McCain. Whoever it is, if Barack Obama is running, just not good enough to win. Agree or disagree, I think you could make it a McCain Jesus ticket and it won't make a difference. Go to CNN.com/Glenn right now and cast your vote. Coming up, we have...